What's up, guys? So in the Air Force, there are a ton of different practices. What I mean by practices, we call it AFSC, which is, professions. The thing is, when you start to progress in the Air Force, you get to a point in your career where you have to do leadership. In the Air Force, we call it CGO, which is, what does the acronym mean again?
Company Grade Officer.
Company Grade Officer. And then once you make major, you go to a field grade officer. So, you are seeing a progression in your career. These series of videos that we are going to be releasing is a class project, and it's supposed to help those who are in these fields and help those who want to get into the Air Force and kind of see what we do in the Air Force. And I think that's the most important part, is to encapsulate the different kinds of personalities and the kinds of people that you will be dealing with. What's really good on my day ones? Welcome back to the channel. This is my guy right here. His name is Charles. For OPSEC reasons, I will not be revealing his rank, where he's from. However, we will be discussing a lot of what he does with regards to OPSEC. But I'm gonna go ahead and have him basically talk about himself here. What I mean by have him talk about himself, I'm gonna have you talk about your Air Force background and how you got in. Was it the ROTC? Was it OTS? Was it Academy?
All right, cool. So I commissioned in 2018 out of the United States Air Force Academy. And after that, I went to pilot training for a year. Did not make it through pilot training, unfortunately. But on the other side of that, ended up working in acquisitions and have been doing acquisitions ever since.
And that's the thing about it, is something that some people don't mention is for you to get your commission, there's three ways. You could either go through OTS, which is a direct commission from the President of the United States. You go through a recruiter, that's kind of a pain. And then you have ROTC and you have Academy. Talk a little bit more about Academy, like how that whole process works of being selected, the application process for that.
So the application process looks very similar to that of a college application with a few different stipulations. Every few years they have a PT test. Every few years, I mean, some years that they have it, you have to take a physical test in order to get in. Some years that they don't. And you have to get a nomination from your congressman or senator.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You do. So you have to typically go interview for the congressional approval. They'll vet out all of their applicants, and only the ones that they select are even considered to be applied to the Academy.
Yo, true story. When I was in high school, I actually applied to the Academy. I did. And the thing is, like, you guys have heard this story before. It's like I just didn't have good enough grades. I was your BC average Asian. And then my GPA was a 3.2. But everyone who applies to that academy, 4.0 students. Very smart people, very involved, and I was not really that much involved. So I didn't get in, but things work the way they're supposed to. The thing of it is if there's a will, there's a way. And Charles has just been one of those, a really good wingman since I've been here, and I wanted to get his story.
Before we go on, there's actually another hint there I could drop real quick.
Go ahead, dude.
So when I was actually applying to the Academy, I applied for the congressional nomination and didn't get it.
Oh, you did?
I did not.
Okay.
So through a series of events I'm not going to get into right now, I actually was appointed to the United States Air Force Academy Preparatory School.
Okay.
Which is it's a separate institution where you do not commit to going to the academy the first year. You go through 1 year of training, which includes basic training and classes, and then you are reapplying to the Air Force Academy with a different nomination, which if you go the prep school route, you don't have to get the nomination from your congressman, but you do get a nomination that then gets you into the academy for the second shot.
See, I did not know that. See, there are venues that we discuss on this channel all the time, but this is very essential to know all this intel, because should you be going down this route, if it is the academy route, he's a subject matter expert. So I will be discussing how to get in touch with certain people at the end of this video or throughout these series. Him is probably gonna be his personal email, but we'll get in further discussion about that later. So specifically, in the Air Force, you've heard my story. What do you do?
So I'm doing acquisitions, which is a 63 Alpha by trade. What we do largely is acquire the assets and weapon systems that are needed for the warfighter to conduct the mission. To be totally upfront, it's a lot of desk work. It's a lot of managing schedules and making sure that everyone is contributing properly. We work on a 3-point system that is the crux of everything that we do. We ensure that everything meets the proper cost requirements, schedule requirements, and performance requirements. And we manage that tricycle to ensure that our warfighters get the best possible product.
So the thing is, once you get to field grade officer and they start training you to do like the bigger things, there are certain things that you can or cannot do. And when you are like 01 to 03, you know, junior captain, you are more on the tactical level of just doing the job, getting to know how to do your job, how to get good and proficient at your job. But once you get to the senior captain level, you are required to go to SOS, and that's why we're here. Is we are here developing our leadership skills. You meet all these other leaders, and they basically throw you into flights, and you learn how to do these things. And he's already thinking on an operational level, which you know, you're thinking about logistics and also acquisitions. You're talking about the bigger Air Force. And something that I've mentioned before is you have your line side and you have your medical, and you just have all these other specialties. So he's more on the line side. And what I'm going to have him talk about here next is particular to, you know, his projection into the Air Force. So the question is, do you plan on staying in the Air Force, or do you plan on getting out? If you plan on staying, or if you plan on getting out, what are you planning to do with your career?
That becomes a very interesting question very quickly.
Yes.
As it turns out, my career field, typically people get out at about 4 years, 4 to 5. As soon as the commitment's up, they're out. For a very good reason. That is because program management, which is what we do, is analyzing things at such a strategic level that employers on the outside tend to headhunt acquisitions officers with a very intense degree. The Air Force needs more acquisitions officers to stay later, and because of that, we tend to have a very light officer load on the acquisitions side of things. I will be staying in for at least the rest of my tour. After that, I do not know, but I do know that any option I do choose, it's going to be a great option.
Yeah, and the insane thing is, and I've mentioned on this channel time and time again, is by the time he leaves, he will not only be making more money, but he will have like the resume of way more people like in his age group. And the fact that he has these skills to do like acquisitions, and also the skills of what we call multiple capable airmen, where he's doing other things outside of his actual job, is going to make him highly marketable. And that's also for all these other officers at this course, is like you tend to network. And he's developed the capability of actually even creating his own business. The next question that I have for you is, what has the Air Force done for your career, since we're here on this topic?
The biggest thing that the Air Force has done, I would say this is for any officer, is the connectedness. Networking is imperative. It's not what you know, it's who you know and who knows you. As we go through the levels and stay more in, finding people that are capable, you know, committed, and the people who can help you achieve your goals becomes very easy to find. As opposed to being in the civilian world and having a large footprint now, working with civilians, that level of commitment is hard to find. And while you're in the Air Force, it's the only thing you have to fight against is their commitment to the Air Force. But once people begin to get out, then you can do amazing things. Except for, well, excuse me, the career side of staying in the Air Force potentially, the personal development that they do is imperative. It's top priority in the Air Force. They will make sure that their people are qualified in a multitude of functions so that they have their best talent moving up through the ranks to the best of their ability, which twofold: one, you learn a lot; two, you're highly marketable. They put all the cards in your hand to make a decision.
Yeah, and that's why the Air Force tends to invest a lot in like people. And like that's the biggest thing is right now there is that attrition rate. The more that you decide to develop yourself, the more that you develop as a professional, it does get harder for the Air Force to keep you, because you know that you could do a lot of bigger things on the outside. That's for sure. You take a look at like Charles right here, he's still in his 20s. What more if he does get out, he develops all these major businesses or whatnot, whatever he wants to do, and starts working like in these jobs. This guy could be a conglomerate right here, man. There's a lot of things that he could do in his field, and this is for me to actually showcase you guys that you know, although there's a lot of nurses that follow me here on this page, he's one of the only people that I know, at least in the acquisition world, where he's doing different things, and having these discussions with him about business and etc. He's gonna go a lot. He's gonna go a very long way. And with that being said, give these people something inspirational. Tell them about the Air Force, but at the same time, like what it's done for you, but inspire the people.
I had a mentor a long time ago told me this while he was still in the Air Force. He was an 18-year colonel at the time. And he said, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do when I grow up. And I'm not even close to 18 years. However, the Air Force does provide you not only the means, but the sustainment and the time to really develop and sharpen your skills so that when you step to the real world, you're ready to go. You can crush it in the Air Force, and I encourage everybody to be a beast at their job. But understand absolutely that the Air Force does breed talented people. And it's an honor to be a part of it, and we're going to see what the future holds for all of us.
On the topic of sharpening your skills, what he was saying reminded me of a book that I read called Mastery by Robert Greene, where you have to hone in on those skills. You have, especially if you come in as a lieutenant, that's your time to like learn the job, make the mistakes, so therefore when you become a senior CGO, progressing to FGO, you would have already sharpened the sword for you to get to the higher side of things, because by the time you get to FGO, there's that side that you don't see, which involves a lot of politics. That's where you're gonna run into leaders of all sorts of different measure. The problem is you have to learn how to work with people. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm even still learning, is the dynamics of even our flight, because everyone in our flight is smart. There's not one dumb person. Everyone is well spoken. They all have their own opinions, how to express them. And the fact that they're all well-rounded people is because they've taken the time to sharpen those skills. And now we're at that level of let's go ahead and progress to a higher tier of mastery. Because once we become majors, despite him having to leave the Air Force one day, I'm going to continue to progress. And then you have him who's going to progress on the civilian side. Doesn't discredit anything he's done for the Air Force. You get to a level of competency, and that's where it becomes politics. Because now, how do you solve problems without having to sacrifice one thing or the other, or how do you play these politics to create a balance in the workplace? Because I'll tell you this, that with the person that I came in as the Air Force 2 years ago, two and a half years ago, I'm not the same person. I've met a lot of great people. I'm gonna miss this dude when SOS finishes, and there's a lot of things that you could become, and one of them is definitely a leader. And I want to say thank you for being on this video.
Thank you.
You're going to help a lot of people. If you are in the logistics world, I'm going to put his email down here, and like he could answer questions that I cannot, the acquisitions at least. Like he knows people in logistics too, because they work hand in hand. They're synonymous. I cannot answer certain questions in this field. He can. So if you are trying to reach out to me, email will be down below. It's going to point to him. But I appreciate you being on this channel, bro.
Catch you, brother.
You're a good dude.
My man.
And it's gonna suck when we leave in 2 weeks, but we've been here for 6. We're gonna be here about 6 weeks, so it's time to go.
You're right.
All right, y'all take care.